The misunderstanding. Marcus Chen straightened his formal diplomatic uniform as the transport shuttle docked with Celestial Harmony, the massive ring-shaped station that served as headquarters for the Galactic Confederation. The station hung in space like a gleaming silver hoop, home to representatives from over 300 species across the known galaxy. First-time nervousness, Ambassador? Asked his aide, Diane Santos, noticing him adjust his collar for the 5th time. Is it that obvious? Marcus smiled. Earth had received an invitation to observe Confederation proceedings only 3 months ago, after humanity's development of viable FTL travel. Today was meant to be a simple introduction. No one expected them to be called to speak. The docking bay opened into a vast atrium filled with beings from across the galaxy. 12-foot-tall Vrosians with iridescent scales glided past squat Nuberan diplomats, whose dense bodies required exoskeletons in standard gravity. Crystalline Zexar entities floated in anti-gravity fields. Marcus tried to maintain his diplomatic composure, but it was difficult not to stare. A slender being with 4 arms and skin the color of an Earth sunset approached. The council convened shortly. Human observer, please follow. The aide's voice sounded like wind chimes translated through Marcus's neural implant. The council chamber took Marcus's breath away. 27 massive seats arranged in a perfect circle faced a central platform. Each seat held a representative from the founding species of the Confederation. Light from a nearby star streamed through crystalline windows, casting rainbow patterns across the polished obsidian floor. More impressive than the briefings described, Diane whispered. The High Speaker, an ancient Medusan with skin like polished marble and eyes that shifted colors with their mood, raised a 6-fingered hand. The chamber fell silent. The 12,487th Assembly of the Galactic Confederation begins, the Medusan announced, voice resonating without apparent amplification. Today we address the human incursion problem. Marcus straightened in his observer seat. This wasn't on the agenda. For the next hour, Marcus watched in growing confusion as council members presented evidence of supposed human aggression. They showed holographic images of ships with Earth markings harvesting resources from protected zones, research stations flying human flags in disputed territories, and armed vessels threatening Confederation patrols. None of it made sense. Earth barely had ships that could reach the Kuiper Belt, let alone these distant regions. When Marcus tried to speak, the chamber's automated translation system ignored his input. The High Speaker's voice cut through the chamber. We have seen enough. The evidence is clear. These humans expand unchecked, stealing resources and violating boundaries. They mock our authority, added a reptilian representative with metallic scales. They answer no communications. They build weapons of concerning design, said another with tentacles instead of arms. Marcus repeatedly pressed the request to speak button. Nothing happened. The vote was quick and unanimous. The High Speaker's announcement echoed through the chamber. The Galactic Confederation hereby declares a state of war against the human species until they withdraw from all contested regions and submit to council authority. Finally, Marcus's speaker activated. He rushed to the platform. There must be some mistake, he said, keeping his voice steady. Earth has no colonies in these regions. Those ships aren't ours. We've barely developed faster than light travel. The evidence has been examined and verified. The High Speaker interrupted, eyes shifting to a dark orange. We expected denials. Your primitive deception tactics will not work here. The Council has spoken. War is declared. You have 48 hours to leave Celestial Harmony before your diplomatic status is revoked. Back on the shuttle, Marcus sat in stunned silence while Diane reviewed recordings of the proceedings. This is insane, Diane said. Those weren't our ships. That wasn't our technology. We need to warn Earth. Marcus nodded slowly. 27 species, thousands of worlds, millions of ships. He looked out at the stars, and they just declared war on us. What do you think Earth will do? Diane asked, eyes wide with concern. Marcus considered this for a moment. I honestly don't know, but I suspect. Not much. The shuttle accelerated toward the wormhole gate that would take them home, to deliver news of a war with an enemy Earth hadn't met, over territories Earth didn't possess, for reasons Earth couldn't understand. Behind them, the Confederation worlds prepared for a conflict they believed would be swift and decisive. They were about to learn how wrong they were, not because humans would fight back, but because they might not care enough to notice. Dr. Elena Kapoor floated in zero gravity, checking readings from the asteroid mining operation orbiting Ceres. Chunks of mineral-rich rock moved slowly along conveyor systems toward the processing ship. Her neural implant pinged with a priority message. "What now?" she muttered, blinking twice to open the notification. A red border surrounded the message. Official Noti. War declared against Earth and ALUMN territories by Galactic Confederation. Elena read it twice. She scratched her nose, yawned, then filed the message under External Affairs. She turned back to the mining supervisor's feed. "The new drill bits are working better. Good job, Rajiv." Rajiv nodded. Neither mentioned the war declaration. 10,000 miles away. Confederation spy probes recorded this non-reaction with confusion. On the Confederation flagship, Admiral Xar Vosh thumped her tentacles against the command console. "This makes no sense. We've monitored all Earth communications since the declaration. There are no emergency broadcasts, no military alerts. Nothing." Her second-in-command, a tall blue-skinned Frosian, studied the data. "Perhaps they're using secret channels we can't detect. For what purpose? All citizens should be informed of the war. Maybe their government is hiding it to prevent panic." Admiral Xar Vosh zoomed in on a live feed from Tokyo. People walked along streets, entered shops, ate at outdoor cafes. Children played in parks. Transport vehicles moved in orderly patterns. Look at them. No fear, no preparations. It's like they didn't even hear us. In a suburban home outside Chicago, Michael Okafor sipped coffee while reading the morning news on his tablet. The headline caught his eye. Galactic Confederation declares war on humanity. He scrolled through the article, eyebrows furrowed. Then he swiped to the sports section to check last night's basketball scores. His wife Priya poured herself coffee. "Anything interesting today?" "Bulls won in overtime. And apparently some alien council declared war on us." Priya buttered her toast. "Ha! Is that the group Marcus Chen was visiting?" "I think so. They claim we've been stealing resources or something. Weird. Did you remember to pick up milk on your way home yesterday?" Michael nodded, already reading about the upcoming football season. President Gabriela Santos sat in the Oval Office facing her advisors. A holographic display showed the solar flare that had knocked out communications with the Mars colony. "How long until we restore contact?" she asked. "At least 72 hours, Madame President," said the NASA director. "The radiation is still too intense for standard transmissions." Her secretary entered. "Madame President, Ambassador Chen has returned from celestial harmony with urgent news." Gabriella checked her watch. "I can give him 15 minutes before the infrastructure meeting." Marcus entered, face pale. "Madame President, the Galactic Confederation has declared war on Earth." Gabriella raised an eyebrow. "On what grounds?" Marcus explained quickly about the false ships and territorial claims. When he finished, Gabriella tapped her fingers on the desk. "So they think we have technology we don't have, doing things we aren't doing, in places we've never been." "Exactly. And they voted unanimously for war without letting me properly respond." Gabriella sighed. "Forward all evidence to our science team for analysis. Have Defense monitor for any unusual activity near our outposts. Otherwise, we'll deal with this after the solar flare crisis and the Europa exploration launch next week." "You're not declaring emergency measures?" Marcus asked, surprised. "For what?" "A case of mistaken identity by aliens who didn't bother to check facts. We'll send a formal correction once we figure out who's actually doing these things." She stood. "Now if you'll excuse me, I have 8 million colonists on Mars who can't call home because of a real crisis." On the Confederation monitoring station, the alien observers watched in growing bewilderment. "The humans received our war declaration 12 hours ago," one said to his superior. "And nothing changed. Their military remains at standard readiness. Their news mentioned it briefly between weather and entertainment. Their leader met with the ambassador for exactly 15 minutes before returning to a meeting about solar radiation." The superior's skin changed color in confusion. Are they mad? Or incredibly confident? The observers had no answer. This wasn't how war was supposed to work. 2 months after the war declaration, Commander Krasvak of the Vrosian battle cruiser Inevitable Victory stood on the bridge, his iridescent scales tight with anticipation. Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, held a key human outpost. Intelligence suggested it was a military research facility. Taking it would be the first true battle in this strange war. "Weapons systems ready," reported his second-in-command. "Ground troops prepared for deployment." Krasvak nodded, mandibles clicking with excitement. "The humans will finally understand the might of the Confederation. Begin the attack." 5 warships descended toward Europa's icy surface. They surrounded a small dome-shaped structure, the only sign of human presence on the frozen moon. No defensive fire, an officer noted with surprise. No shield activation. Krasvak frowned. Scan for hidden weapons. None detected, just standard research equipment. Impossible. Land the troops. Inside Europa Station, Dr. Maya Patel stared through a microscope at a water sample collected from beneath the ice. Tiny organisms moved in the liquid, unlike anything on Earth. An alarm beeped softly. Without looking up, Maya reached over and hit a button. "Jin, check the perimeter alert, would you?" Dr. Jin Park glanced at a monitor. Maya, there are 5 alien ships landing outside." Maya looked up. Through the station's main window, she could see armored figures approaching across the ice. That's different." The 16 scientists gathered at the windows, watching curiously as alien soldiers surrounded their station. "Should we call Earth?" asked Carlos, the youngest researcher. "The communications relay is down until tomorrow, remember." Maya shrugged. "Let's see what they want." The station's outer door hissed open. 20 heavily armed soldiers stormed in, weapons raised, led by a tall, reptilian alien with iridescent scales. "Humans," Krasvak shouted, his translator making his voice echo dramatically. "Your station is now under control of the Galactic Confederation. Surrender immediately." The scientists looked at each other. Maya stepped forward. "Hi there. I'm Dr. Maya Patel, lead researcher. Mind keeping it down? We're in the middle of some time-sensitive experiments." Krasvak blinked all 6 eyes in confusion. "Did you not hear me? This is a military takeover. You are prisoners of war." Maya checked her watch. "Look, we've got samples that need processing within the next hour, or we lose 2 weeks of work. Could we maybe do the war thing after that? We're just studying microbes here." Microbes. Krasvak looked around the station. Instead of weapons, he saw microscopes, computers, and sample containers. "This isn't a military base." "Military? No. We're studying potential life in Europa's subsurface ocean." Maya pointed to a large drill extending through the ice. "First potential alien life found in our solar system. Well, I guess you folks are technically the first aliens, but you know what I mean." Krasvak lowered his weapon slowly. "Our intelligence indicated this was a weapons research facility." Jin laughed. "Weapons? We can barely keep the heating system working." "You're not resisting capture?" Krasvak asked. "Would it help if we did?" Maya asked. "Look, we really need to finish our work. You're welcome to watch. Maybe you'd find it interesting. After that, we can surrender properly if you want." Krasvak's communicator buzzed. "Commander, have you secured the human fortress?" his superior asked. Looking at the curious, completely unthreatened scientists, Razvac replied, "There's been a misunderstanding. I'll report back later." He turned to Maya. "Show me these microbes." As the armed soldiers stood awkwardly around the lab, the scientists simply returned to work, occasionally offering explanations to their confused captors. "Fascinating," Razvac muttered, looking through a microscope at Europa's microscopic life. "Our worlds should be sharing this knowledge, not fighting." "That's what we keep saying," Maya replied with a smile. "Coffee? It might taste weird to you, but it helps with the long shifts." The resolution. The Grand Council chamber buzzed with angry voices. On the main screen, Commander Razvac's report from Europa played, showing scientists cheerfully working while alien soldiers stood awkwardly in the background. "This is unacceptable," shouted the Zithian representative, her feathers fluffing in agitation. 6 months of war, and humans treat our soldiers like curious visitors." High Speaker Tevmor raised his 6-fingered hand for silence. "The humans mock us with their indifference. We must show them the true meaning of Confederation authority." Admiral Xar Vosh stepped forward. "I have assembled our largest battle fleet. 300 warships will blockade Earth itself. They cannot ignore such a show of force." The Council voted unanimously to approve the blockade. Admiral Elisa Rice was enjoying her morning coffee on the observation deck of Earth Orbital Command when the alert came through. "Admiral," her aide said, "long-range sensors detect approximately 300 alien vessels entering the system. They appear to be forming a blockade pattern around Earth." Elisa sighed and finished her coffee. "Send the standard greeting package and ask if their commanders would like to discuss whatever is bothering them. I'm free after 2 p.m. "They're positioning weapons, Mom." "Are they firing?" "No, Admiral." "Then it can wait until after the staff meeting." "Oh, and cancel the orbital skydiving championships. We should probably postpone them until our visitors leave." On Earth, news of the alien blockade finally made headlines, bumping the Mars colony expansion efforts to second place. "An update on the Galactic Confederation situation," said the news anchor. 300 alien ships now surround Earth in what military experts are calling a blockade formation. This has forced the cancellation of tomorrow's International Orbital Skydiving Championships, disappointing thousands of fans. Championship organizer Keisha Williams called the timing inconsiderate and has rescheduled for next month. In living rooms across the planet, people watched with mild interest. "Should we be worried?" James asked his husband David as they ate dinner. David shrugged. "The government would tell us if we needed to do something. Pass the salt." On the Confederation flagship, Admiral Xar Vosh received Earth's response with disbelief. "They sent us tourist information about Earth, general greeting protocols, and an invitation to discuss our concerns over refreshments," she sputtered. "We have enough firepower to level their cities." Her tactical officer looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, they also apologize for canceling some kind of sporting event and hope it doesn't inconvenience us." Xar Vosh's skin darkened with frustration. "Intercept their next civilian transport. We'll show them we're serious." The passenger ship Polaris carried 80 people from Earth to the lunar colony. Captain Maria Rodriguez noticed the alien cruiser approaching. "Folks," she announced over the intercom, "looks like we're being intercepted by one of those Confederation ships. Nothing to worry about, but we may be delayed. We've added an extra movie to the entertainment system to help pass the time." When armed aliens boarded 20 minutes later, they found passengers watching films, playing card games, or napping. No one seemed frightened. "Your ship is seized in the name of the Galactic Confederation," declared the boarding party leader. "You are now prisoners of war." An elderly man looked up from his crossword puzzle. "That's nice, dear. Will we still make it to the moon by dinner? My daughter is expecting me." Another passenger offered snacks to the confused alien soldiers. "Want some? They're barbecue flavor." The boarding party leader's communicator crackled. "Have you secured the human vessel? Are they surrendering?" Looking at the completely unconcerned humans, he replied weakly, "They've offered us chips." Back in the council chamber, representatives struggled to understand the situation. "Our psychological warfare experts are baffled," admitted the chief analyst. "No species has ever reacted this way to overwhelming force. They're either incredibly brave or completely insane." Or, suggested a junior analyst who had studied human history, "perhaps what we consider war doesn't even register on their threat scale." The council members exchanged troubled looks. What kind of species would consider the combined might of 27 advanced civilizations as merely an inconvenience? Lazara, a Confederation intelligence officer, floated in her anti-gravity harness inside her ship's data center. For weeks she had been trying to understand humans. Now she had secretly gained access to Earth's historical archives. What she found shocked her. "This can't be right," she whispered, her 4 eyes blinking rapidly at the screen. Earth's history was filled with disasters that would have destroyed most civilizations. Massive asteroid strikes, supervolcano eruptions, global pandemics, ice ages, and wars. Brutal conflicts where millions died. Humans had faced extinction-level events repeatedly and survived. Compared to their own history, the Confederation's war was barely a diplomatic disagreement. Lazara compiled her findings into a report and transmitted it directly to the High Council, bypassing normal channels. Meanwhile, in a small office at Earth's Extraterrestrial Relations Department, Amir Patel, a junior analyst, finally decided to carefully read the Confederation's original war declaration. Most senior officials were busy with real problems, like the Mars expansion crisis and the ongoing asteroid belt mining disputes. Amir's eyes widened as he studied the evidence attachments. The ships the Confederation claimed were human had markings that were similar to Earth's, but not identical. The technology was more advanced than anything humans possessed. He cross-referenced the coordinates with known star charts and made a surprising discovery. The disputed territories were near systems controlled by an empire called the Saraxian Hegemony, a species humans had never encountered. Amir tapped a message to his supervisor. "I think someone's using fake human IDs to steal resources. We're being framed." On the Confederation homeworld, High Speaker Tevmor reviewed Lazara's report in private. "Impossible," he muttered, reading about human disaster survival rates. According to the data, humans classified threats on a scale that made the Confederation's military power seem almost trivial. A communication request flashed on his screen. From Earth. President Santos' face appeared. "High Speaker, I believe we need to talk. Our analysts have discovered something that might explain this unfortunate situation." Tevmor's eyes shifted to a curious purple. "You do not seem concerned about our blockade, President Santos." She smiled diplomatically. "With respect, High Speaker, Earth has survived impacts from 10-kilometer asteroids, supervolcano eruptions that blocked the sun for years, global pandemics that killed millions, 2 world wars, and a small nuclear exchange. Your ships are concerning, but they rank below unusually active hurricane season on our threat assessment." The High Speaker's skin paled. "Then why haven't you retaliated?" "Because we think you're being manipulated, just as we are. We've identified the real culprits behind the attacks attributed to us. The Saraxian Hegemony. They're using modified ships with our markings to provoke a conflict between us." Tevmor fell silent, processing this information. "We propose a joint investigation," President Santos continued. "And perhaps once this misunderstanding is cleared up, we might discuss Earth's potential membership in your confederation. We have much to offer each other." 3 weeks later, Marcus Chen stood once again in the Grand Council chamber. This time, he wasn't alone. President Santos stood beside him, along with Earth's military command and scientific leaders. Across from them stood representatives of the Saraxian Hegemony, their scaled faces expressionless under the glare of the Council's attention. "The evidence is conclusive," announced High Speaker Tevmor. "The Saraxians have been conducting false flag operations using replicas of human vessels, attempting to provoke a war between humanity and the Confederation." The Siraxian ambassador hissed in protest, but fell silent when the High Speaker raised his hand. As restitution, the hegemony will withdraw from all contested territories and pay reparations to both Earth and the Confederation. President Santos stepped forward. The people of Earth accept these terms and look forward to peaceful relations with all species of the galaxy. This incident, while regrettable, has given us the opportunity to meet our galactic neighbors, albeit under unusual circumstances. Laughter rippled through the chamber, breaking the tension. Even some of the council members smiled. Later, at the formal reception, Admiral Xarvosh approached Marcus. "There is something I still don't understand, Ambassador. Even when we blockaded your homeworld, your people showed no fear. How is this possible?" Marcus smiled, sipping his champagne. "Earth history is filled with existential threats, Admiral. We've survived asteroid impacts, supervolcanoes, ice ages, nuclear weapons, and centuries of our own wars. We've rebuilt from the ashes of civilizations many times. A fleet of ships that isn't actively bombing us. That barely registers. Your species is resilient," Arvosh said, a note of respect in her voice. "We call it Tuesday," Marcus replied with a wink. "But I will say this, the Confederation has shown wisdom by seeking the truth rather than escalating. That's something my species hasn't always managed." Across the room, Lazara approached President Santos. "Madam President, if I may ask, what would you have done if we had actually attacked Earth?" The President's expression turned serious. "You should be grateful you never had to find out, intelligence officer. When humans actually go to war, truly go to war, we don't shrug. History has shown that we can be terrifyingly efficient when we feel genuinely threatened." Lazara's scales rippled with an involuntary shudder. "But that's not a side of humanity I hope you ever need to witness," Santos continued, her smile returning. "We much prefer this outcome: new friends, new knowledge, and new possibilities." As the reception continued, humans mingled with the various species of the Confederation, exchanging stories, sharing cultural insights, and beginning the process of integration into the galactic community. In the corner, High Speaker Tevmor watched the proceedings with satisfaction. The Confederation had existed for thousands of years, bringing order and stability to the galaxy. Yet in just a few months, one species had forced them to reconsider their assumptions and processes. Perhaps these humans, with their strange resilience and casual disregard for conventional threats, would bring something valuable to the Confederation after all. And perhaps the next time someone declared war on humanity, they would think twice.